One of the most powerful and influential media outlets in the United States, perhaps the most powerful and influential, the New York Times, and one of the most prominent advocates for the Democratic presidential frontrunner Hillary Clinton are now engaging in open warfare. The advocate in question is Media Matters founder, one-time Clinton antagonist David Brock, who, in a book out next week, argues the Times, which has been aggressive in covering Clinton's use of a private email server as Secretary of State, has been turned into, quote, megaphone for conservative propaganda against Clinton, adding that, quote, as it concerns Clinton coverage, the Times will have a special place in hell. Brock singles out Times senior politics editor and former Washington bureau chief Carolyn Ryan for particular criticism, citing unnamed newsroom sources to claim Ryan has skewed coverage out of a desire to take Clinton down. Times reporters dispute Brock's claim, including political reporter Amy Chozick, who covers Clinton for the Times and who told Politico that Ryan is, quote, a fair-minded, inspiring, and brilliant editor who's never shown even a hint of bias for or against any candidate we cover. In a statement to All In, the Times, which endorsed Clinton for president in 2008, had this to say: David Brock is an opportunist and a partisan who specializes in personal attacks. His partisanship has led him to lash out at some of our aggressive coverage of important political figures, and it's unsurprising he's now turned personal. He's wrong on all counts. Ouch. Well, I bet you'd like to know what David Brock has to say to that. And you're... When we come back, my interview with David Brock about his claim the paper of record is out to get Hillary Clinton. Stay with us. Joining me now, David Brock, author of Killing the Messenger, the right-wing plot to derail Hillary Clinton and hijack your government, in which Brock claims the New York Times has become, quote, a megaphone for conservative propaganda against Hillary Clinton. All right, as far as I can tell, there are two kinds of statements issued by the press shop of the New York Times. Statements about everyone in the world and statements about David Brock. They're really, I mean, that is very strong language.
Sure.
They basically think you are a hatchet man and you're going after their people because you have an agenda. What's your response to that?
Well, my response is, yeah, I'm a Hillary Clinton advocate and supporter, but that doesn't mean at all that my facts are wrong. And I lay out a very detailed case in this book about an institutional bias against the Clintons by the New York Times. You have to start with Benghazi. Okay, a failed investigation. Even Republicans investigating it find nothing. Okay, so Republican operatives collude with the New York Times to create this email scandal, and let me tell you why. I mean, I think you may have mentioned it. It's a brilliant stroke because this is a liberal paper, right? And it's the gold standard, and it's the newspaper of record. So it's the perfect host body for the anti-Clinton virus. Okay. Okay. So let me give you. But a lot of this hinges. Let me just say, I know this is counterintuitive, particularly for liberals who.
No, it's not that. It's actually.
I just wanted to get into some examples.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, go. You sure. Continue. Yeah.
Okay. Look, let me take three. Okay. First, the first email story on the personal use of email. It says that she may have broken rules in the subhead. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, the relevant statute cited is passed after the secretary leaves office. It doesn't. Okay. Right. And the public editor of the Times, not David Brock, says the story's faulty. Okay. Right. All right. Number two. Republican operative Peter Schweizer, you remember him. He has this book out, okay? The Times does some kind of deal with him that a lot of people, even in their newsroom, thinks is unusual. They never disclose the terms of it to piggyback off his reporting.
This is the book on the
That's right,
Foundation.
And they run a big story saying that Hillary Clinton did a favor for a Clinton Foundation donor in the sale of a uranium company to Russia. It turns out, you know, many federal agencies had to approve this, not just the State Department. She wasn't involved. And so you've got another problematic story. And three, the big really that people I'm sure are familiar with is the story where they say they put Hillary Clinton and criminal referral in a headline. Right. Now, nobody would want that to happen to them, and it turns out there is no criminal referral. She's not the subject of any investigation. They have embarrassing walk back, and then again the public editor
Margaret
says
Sullivan
this is a
says,
mess.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So let's say that I think for the sake of debating time here or questioning time, I will concede those are three stories with problems in them. Sure. Okay. Even though I think two of them more than one, but yeah. There seems to be a strong case and a weak case here, okay? The weak case, which I think is plausible, is that there is an interest in seeing the front runner be in a competitive race. There is a special journalistic incentive to someone as high status, as formidable as Hillary Clinton, and that can lead to overreach, it could lead to mistakes. Sure. That's not the case you're making. The strong case that you're making is that there's actually like a institutional vendetta against Hillary Clinton that somehow suffuses the Ethernet network at the New York Times. And
Right.
that sounds conspiratorial to me. I don't even understand how that's transmitted.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
I do. Well, first of all, you've got a pattern. I think you've got more than 3 cases. I could go back 2 years to a Clinton Foundation story.
But isn't that part of just a larger thing?
Sure.
Like in the case of Benghazi, like everyone was running nonsense Benghazi stories. I remember networks.
But the New York Times has led this, and it's been particularly damaging. It's led the charge on this. Even in the last month, 70% of their stories and columns have been about this email deal when Hillary Clinton is out talking about issues that people really care about, and there's much less coverage of that. So let me go back to one point.
Yeah.
You raised Carolyn Ryan, and I tell the story in the book that in this first email story, Nick Merrill, the spokesman for Hillary Clinton, gives a very lengthy reply to the paper before it runs that would knock down, take the wind out of sales. And the editor, Carolyn Ryan, defends the decision to cut that down to a very short by saying
David, we always do that.
She knows it's a lie. Now, that's a prejudgment, and I just...
Oh, she says... Oh,
yes, she knows the statement's a lie.
Right.
And the Clintons are just liars. Now, I think that's an unprofessional error in judgment, and it does show a bias.
And you know this because of sources in the newsroom?
That's right. Yeah.
So you're saying you have sources in the newsroom that are coming to you and saying these things are going on?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, that's right.
We should trust that.
And yeah, I mean, look, I've talked to some today, and listen, nobody's defending the coverage. There's a lot of finger pointing going on in the newsroom, and one of the reporters, Michael Schmidt, who has led the charge, is now being called a rogue and a cowboy. So there's a lot of finger pointing, but nobody's defending the coverage. And back to, why this is. So you're right that there's careerism and opportunism here, and people, and Hillary's a big target. But Hillary's a big target. But look, people say, well, Karen Ryan and some others, that are just as tough on all the candidates. Jeb Bush has an email problem that's been discussed in the press, turning over only a certain number of emails 7 years
after. The Times has written about it.
On page A14.
Pages. We're in the post-page age. Let me ask you this. Is there a particular way out of this, do you see? I mean, the cynical interpretation is that you're working the refs. What do you want to see happen?
Well, I'd like to see better coverage in the Times. I don't know if that's going to happen. From my point of view, it seemed to me, and Media Matters has been on this for months, that they weren't going to stop. Okay? And I don't know if this is going to stop them. I'm just trying to open a conversation and a dialogue about this and have a real conversation about what the heck is going on in that place.
We should note that you started this a year ago before a lot of these stories have come out. So, David Brock, thanks for coming in.
Thanks very much.
Good to have you. That is all for this evening. The Rachel Maddow Show.